Good evening and welcome to the Bottom Line. News about your neighborhood and its condition. News that will allow you to make informed decisions. From downtown to Dover and everywhere in between. It's news that reaches the residents of Wilmington and Newcastle County. News that's real, relevant, revealing. This is the Bottom Line. Again, good evening. My name is Nicole DeSarette. I am one of your hosts on the Bottom Line. So happy that you are joining us on this stormy evening. I'm happy that you're watching. I'm having a flashback to my childhood when it would storm like this. We weren't allowed to have the television on. You had to sit in the dark and wait for it to pass. But I'm glad modern technology allows you to be with us. Everyone is here, almost everyone is here. We are without our captain, but the ship will sail anyway. We have the first mate, Elder Ty. We have Ed Johnson Sports, Deneen Shakeem, and a power-packed show. We always promise you that every week, but tonight we will deliver in big ways. We promised you last week that we would continue to keep the conversation going about the turmoil impacting our city, our state, and our country. And we're going to hit you from all sides tonight. Trust me on that one. Before we go to Elder Ty, because he's giving me that look, wrap it up, Nicole, you're on my time. There's a lot of construction going on in Wilmington. You already know that. I just want you to know that if you are looking for 5th and Washington on the east side, it no longer exists. It's the west side. That's right. I'm sorry. Thank you. She's from the east side. There we go. The west side. I just want to say congratulations. You know her as Bishop Aretha E. Morton. I know her as my sister in love. Just want to congratulate her. The street has been renamed Bishop Aretha E. Morton Way. It was a wonderful ceremony yesterday around 3:30. Even in the heat, it was just nice. The shade was beautiful. There was a nice wind, a good crowd, and everybody just came together to celebrate. As one of the politicians mentioned at that time, she is not only known in Delaware, she is known worldwide, and she's one of our own. So again, congratulations, Bishop Morton, and we're very, very excited about you, the things that you've done for the community, and the things that you will continue to do moving forward. All right, we're going to get this show moving. Elder Ty is in Studio B, and he's ready to give you the latest news. Take it away, Elder Ty.
Praise the Lord, everybody, everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is a power-packed Bottom Line show tonight. I'm telling you, those ladies have dressed up just like they're going to New York, New York. Deneen looking like, out of the magazine. Nicole looked like she's going to the Jet Fashion Fair, and I'm dressed down. See how they holler? Way down. I just left y'all, forgive me. I just left I forgot Mom said smile more. I just left the TAPS meeting, y'all, over in the Northeast. At the Northeast, what we call the Hope Center. It is the Achievement Center. And the TAPS meeting is a new effort by the Wilmington Police Department and the City Hall to do better crime tracking and status and that sort of thing, and to better communicate with civic associations and folks of that nature. I brought my phone, so I'm not teleprompting tonight. I learned I'm going straight to the phone with some news. I'm old school. I can't keep it all in my head, so we're going to bring it to you live. Somebody tell me what's going on with the DNC. I got to call the Snoop Double DOG, because this has got to be made for records of movies or something. What's going on? Ed, what's going on? I know you sports, but this has got to be a sports play. Some sports play in this kind of crap. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but right now I want to talk about blackmillionaires.com blackmillionaires.com, blackmillionaires.com. They're teaching young people how to be successful. So many times you hear this and you hear that and you hear about young people doing this and young people doing that. Everybody's talking about the monster, but nobody talks about who created the monster. If you're talking about Frankenstein, you got to talk about Dr. Frankenstein. Amen? All right. Now, don't forget yours truly running for office. I need your help. I need your help. And I'm going to be concentrating on housing. I'm going to be concentrating on public safety. And I'm going to be concentrating on how to create income and jobs for young people and folks who just don't have money. Just don't have money. So go to blackmillionaires.com, all right? And it's just not black, black, black. This is for everybody. So we've invited the LT, the lieutenants here tonight. We've invited one of his officers, and we've invited Big Keeb of Black Lives Matter, and the Reverend Dr. Double D, PhD Morton. He's here. I don't know what we call him, Doctor, or you know, Doctor, or just Donald Morton. I don't know. But he's here. I don't know how we got him. He gave up his Moral Mondays to come to the bottom line. So I'm looking forward to this big power-packed show tonight and this discussion on what's going on. And just to hit a little bit on nation, what's going on around this nation, Charles Hensley was laying on his back in North Miami, laying on his back. And he was what you call a social, he was a therapist. And he worked in an assisted living program, and he had autistic folks who were his clients. One of the autistic people got away, ran out into the street. This guy, the autistic person, sitting in the streets, playing with a truck, someone calls the police and says, there's somebody out there with a gun. The black man, laying on his back, a.k.a. Charles Hensley, with his hands up. Police arrive, shoot him in the leg. Thank God Mr. Hensley is not dead. I repeat, he's not dead, but he's shot in the leg. And when the police were questioned, well, why did y'all shoot that man? He said, I don't know. Look, we got a problem. We got a problem. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can fix this problem. Incidentally, congratulations to all the people over at Tab Nation. Woohoo! Bishop Aretha E. Morton, in a historic move, has now got a street named after her. Donald Morton, eat your heart out, boy. I know that's your mom, but boy, she's our mother too. And we love her to life. Congratulations to all those who made it happen. Incidentally, there was another historic move over at the courthouse, which is now the Lenny Williams Justice Center, named after the late Judge Lenny Williams. And we thank, who was a council member, Sam Guy at the time, who was running for council at large, and who is a hard-working man. Look, y'all, I work for the Lord. I'm not talking about who I'm running against. I'm talking about who does good work. And we thank him for that work. He put an ordinance in there, and he made it so that if there was a courthouse built, then when he was on city council, then that courthouse had to be named after Lenny Williams. After much struggle and much fight, they unveiled it. Good God, it was hot out there. It was hot out there. But it happened. Now, it's called the Lenny Williams Justice Center on King Street. Hallelujah. We need imagery, y'all. We need buildings. We need bridges. We need anything that says to our young people that I am somebody. Not like Jesse. Not like Jesse. We need buildings. But most of all, we need money. Incidentally, y'all, moving right along. Sister Hillary Clinton has picked Tim Kaine as her VP. And it's going on right now. And you hear that rain outside? Lord, have mercy. You hear that rain outside? Oh, yeah, Trump's upset. Donald Trump, he's upset. Man shot multiple times over the east side. Incidentally, that's where Bishop Morton is from, y'all. She's from the east side, but she's headquartered on the west side, and she operates nation and worldwide. You got what I'm saying? But she loves the east side. She'll tell anybody that. Shot multiple times on Church Street, so we want to keep track of what's going on right here, because it's not all right for anybody to get shot in our city at any time, and we not say we're praying for the family, we're praying for the family, and we're praying for those who are doing the shootings. I got to wrap it up because y'all know that my agent only got me a couple minutes here, so since I'm dressed down, they might try to dock me. But I want to say congratulations to everybody at Kingswood that made it happen. Good God Almighty, you should see them Riverside folks coming out to Riverside doing their thing. Mayor stopped by, the president of the council stopped by, Tom Gordon stopped by, who was the executive, county executive. Several folks stopped by, but that didn't excite me. What excited me was not everybody running for office, because it's normal for them to stop by when you're having a big affair. But what is not normal is for everybody to come in unison, grab a balloon, and release that balloon in remembrance of all those who has died as a result of gun violence or just died in transition and went on. Hallelujah! That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Kingswood Community Center, 39 years. 39 years. There's a new intervention team coming up, and we'll talk about it on the next Bottom Line. They say it's being headed up by the Reverend Derek Johnson, a.k.a. Pastor D, and we'll see just how that turns out, because we got Cease Violence, we got an intervention team, we still got people dying on the streets. Don't forget yours truly, September the 13th. I am running for council at large. Ed, I want to take it over to Studio C and find out who's and what's happening with the sports.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the sports segment of the show. First of all, I'm going to start off with some sad news. Nebraska punter Sam Foltz and former Michigan State punter Mike Sadler have died in a car crash in Wisconsin after coaching a kicking clinic. Our condolences and hearts go out to their entire families, because that is indeed some sad news. Both these guys were pretty young and heading for maybe a career in the NFL. Our condolences go out to their entire families. All right, NBA. The NBA has decided to pull the 2017 NBA All-Star Game from the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, because of the bathroom debate on which gender should be allowed to use their specific bathrooms. And the move will cost the city more than $100 million, and that will impact the economic value, which will be lost from jobs lost to hotel revenue to tourism. The NBA will announce a new city in upcoming weeks, and that really hurts me because I got some kids down in North Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's something that we have to look at. Okay, the Olympics. The Olympics are approaching fast. It's set to open in less than 2 weeks. The IOC has now ruled that some Russian teams will be allowed to compete amid allegations of doping. And they're saying that the entire Russian teams have, are doping, and that's going to cause some controversy because, the Russians usually come neck and neck with the United States in the most medals won in the Olympics, as we all should know. And it just looks like, they should be disqualified because they have admitted to doping, and the whole team seems to be on this trend. Okay, we look forward to hearing the names like Simone Biles and Michael Phelps to lead the medal count for the United States. Also, the U.S. men's basketball team will be led by Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and DeMarcus Cousins. Moving on. Okay, in Major League Baseball, Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza were inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame yesterday. Griffey played 22 seasons with the Mariners, Reds, and White Sox, a 13-time All-Star, 10 Gold Glove winners, 630 home runs hit, and 1,836 RBIs. Amazing. Piazza played in 16 years with the Dodgers, Marlins, Mets, Padres, and the Athletics. 12-time All-Star, hit 427 home runs, posted 6 seasons with at least 30 homers, 100 RBIs, and a 300 batting average. All other catchers in baseball history has posted only 9 such seasons combined. In other baseball news, the Chicago Cubs today have acquired Aroldis Chapman from the New York Yankees for 4 players to be named. And I tell you, this guy, I watched the game. I was at the game last Sunday night. This cat is bringing it up to the plate 100 miles per hour on every single pitch, reaching pitches of up to 105 miles per hour. The Yankees traded Chapman because after they acquired him from the Reds in the offseason, Chapman was set to become a free agent after the season, and he just refused to sign an extension, saying he wanted to test free agency. So they sent him packing. They're probably going to try to re-sign him after the season. In tennis, Venus Williams lost yesterday to hard-hitting Johanna Konta in the finals of the Bank of the Classics. And Michael Jordan has donated $1 million to two organizations to try to curb violence, which Ty spoke about earlier. And in closing, a guy named Chris Froome in Tour de France celebrated his third tour title with beer and champagne, his third time he has won it. And in auto racing, Kyle Busch won the Brickyard 400 yesterday to make it a clean sweep at Indianapolis. Okay, now we're going to go over to Studio B. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Welcome back to The Bottom Line. You need to hold on. We have a wonderful 35, 40 minutes for you this evening. You might want to get a piece of paper, a pencil, something with which to write, because this is information that you can truly use and benefit from. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago, and someone said, Nicole, you need to get this company on the show. As you all know, we've had just one too many incidents, people losing their lives. We've got something just happened the other day with a teen nightclub in Florida. And what is it that we can do to help be a solution to the problem? And she said, look at this website. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, yes, they need to get on The Bottom Line. And we were able to turn that around in less than a week. So this evening, I am so happy to have two young men, Studio B, with me. I have Mr. Curtis Hudson as well as Mr. Garth Warner. Welcome to The Bottom Line.
Thank you.
And this thing is absolutely amazing. So you are the visionary, you are the dreamer, very literally the dreamer, and you can share with our viewing audience a little more about that. What is this and how did it come to be?
Well, it's called the Hudson ID Visor, and it was back in October. I literally was laying in bed and I woke up in the middle of the night and said, what? And it was a vision of holding some type of apparatus for traffic stops, and I didn't really understand, how it was going to come to fruition. But it took about 2 more weeks, and I created it, and I called my good friend Garth here and said, hey, listen, I have something I want you to look at. And what it is it's a apparatus that holds your license and holds your insurance card, and if you carry a firearm or some type of medical insurance card or whatever, you can put that in here as well, and then hold your registration on the back side. And what it does is, with the sleeve that you see here, that's right there, the Velcro strap, it actually holds itself in the top of the visor. So what happens is that, when you're being pulled over by the officer, you have all your information there. So, there's no reaching into the glove box, there's no reaching into purses or behind the seat or whatever it may be. So your hands are always on the wheel, and officer pulls you over and asks for all your information. All you do is point.
Right.
That's it. All you do is point. And you pull down the visor, you take it out, and you give it to the officer, and you put your hands back on the wheel. And what that does is it keeps the officer safe, and it keeps the civilian safe, and it takes away that angst, all that anxiety that you have before traffic stop. Because before all of this stuff happened anyway, anyone who's getting pulled over, it's a nervous situation. It's a nervous time. So, and that's what it is, and it's created to save lives, and that's the most important thing.
Wow. And, as we were talking a little bit prior to the beginning of the show, the fact that you said it was just a dream, because I thought maybe, you had some personal experience and you thought, okay, let me create something, but for it to come in a dream, and I think that's important because I actually just did a speaking engagement the other day with young girls about the importance of your dreams. And for you to get that in a dream and then act upon it, it will save somebody's life.
Absolutely.
And or keep them from having experiencing some type of injury. So I thought that was really key to share with people. It's not just, things just necessarily falling from the sky. Sometimes it's just something in your dream and then you're acting upon it. So
Absolutely.
This is
Absolutely.
wonderful. This is wonderful. And so sitting next to you is your COO,
COO.
and I know he's the feature of your video.
Absolutely.
I need his
Absolutely.
autograph or something like that. So if you could share with us a little bit about your role with the organization.
Sure. My role, basically, I'm helping the dream maker help his dream become a reality. My background pretty much is I've been a corporate guy for 25 years as corporate vice president. But when I left the corporate scene, I decided I want to spend time with entrepreneurs. I want to spend time with individuals, helping them fulfill their destiny and their visions for themselves and what they have. And Mr. Hudson Curtis presented his opportunity to me. And it's one of these where I listened to him, and probably most people would say, oh, don't act. I listened to him right away, and we took action. And basically my role is, how do we bring this now to life? You know, I have worked very hard with Mr. Hudson here in identifying key resources that can help us bring this product to life. We've had meetings with our local government, state government, and Homeland Security, and all the above that have helped us. State police and Newcastle County Police, they're actually customers and endorsers of our product, as well as working within the community of trying to bring about the product and making sure that civilians and everyone understood how it can help support them. It's very simple, but very, very important.
Great, great. And I know that beyond the dream, you know, you have a big vision for this. So we were talking a little bit about who do we want to be using this? And pretty much the answer is everybody. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about DMVs,
Yes.
we talked about driver's ed classes. So if you could share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Well, when this was created, and my biggest thing is for the younger community, for teenagers, when they get their license in school and driver's ed, when they learn how to drive, they need to learn how to reach it for the visor instead of reaching for the glove box. What that does is it starts that whole generation with a total different mindset. So now that generation that's coming up, learning how to reach from the visor, has now took away that negative attitude and whatever it may be that they hear from the media all the time, and it brings back that respect between the officer and the civilian, and we have to start there.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me help a little bit too with this, what Curtis is speaking to. You know, when you think about it, everyone needs this product.
Everybody.
When you think about if I have some sort of medical impairment, you know, where I do not move as quickly, or I may have a jitter when I move, it's very important to have a product like this to help make sure that everyone realizes you're reaching for something, you're not, again, doing something because of being on something. That's one example. The other, I would also say, is when you look at, you know, I feel more secure myself when I'm driving with it. I have a friend, it's a former LAPD in California. He's a lefty. He also has a license to carry. He's pulled over by LAPD heading down to San Diego. Officer approaches him on the passenger side of the car. He tells him he has a weapon. The officer gets very, very tense. As he's tense, because he's a lefty, I have to reach for my weapon, and I have to reach I have to reach for my wallet, which is next to my weapon.
Okay.
The tension that these things cause is really not worth it. This diffuses that.
Okay.
You know, because I have all my documents, you see that I now have my license to carry, you see that I have everything of importance. So it de-escalates it, but more importantly, being organized, as we all know, helps us to remain calm.
Right.
You know?
And this simple product really can, as you said earlier, while we were talking, help to bridge the gap. And I think that's very important. And it's not just, I see it comes in multiple colors. And if an organization wants to order 50 or 100 of them, they can get them personalized. So there's some other, you know, perks to ordering this.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I think you all are on to something very big, and I'm glad that we can share it with our viewing audience. How about information on how to get in touch with you?
You can reach us at www.hudsonidvisor.com, and Hudson is spelled with a T.
So it's HUTSONIDvisor.com. And you can see that at the bottom of the screen as well. And the phone number?
844-488-7664.
Great. And just before we get ready to go over to Studio A, this is a certified minority business.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
And you're local, and it's just the two of you right now.
That's correct.
Well, I'm looking for your next big step, your next big dream, and the I was about to say the little elf to make it happen. But
Yeah.
you know, thank you for what you're doing.
right.
And would you like to say anything in closing?
I would say just check us out on Facebook and Twitter and all the posts that we have. But most importantly, you know, take the time to think safety in everything you do, because right now your family is important, your loved one's important, and all we want to do is try to make a difference and help people as they start out their day, return home in the evenings. That's what we're all about at HudsonIDvisor.com.
Great. And before we go to A, somebody just had a question about cost. I jumped on the website. They are very reasonably priced. And I know you have volume discount. There was a special that if you order for family and friends,
Yes.
you know, that even lowered the cost as well.
Yeah, so what we have basically to bring this to market, a loved ones pack, a pack of 3 visors for $5.99, a family pack, a pack of 5 visors for $5.99, and a family pack, a pack of 10 visors for $17.50. And our whole effort is how do we cover as much people as possible to really help make a difference and help them remain safe.
Okay.
And we can't, this is not going to be a solution to to help and save the problem that we have, but this is just one solution. This is just one solution, and we know that it can help.
Right.
We know that it can help, and that's the most important thing.
Great. Well, thank you both for your efforts to make a difference. And again, thank you for being on the bottom line. And I think we need to have you back. You know, because I know
Absolutely.
there's some other things that you want
Yes.
to do moving forward, and
Yes.
you know, we're happy to be a part of your journey.
Great, thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having us. We
Great.
appreciate it.
We now have Miss Deneen and Mr. Shakeem with 3 very special guests over in Studio A. Take it away.
Good evening. Thank you all for tuning in to the Bottom Line again on this Monday night. I know it's raining outside, but let me tell you, stay tuned because we have some very power-packed information for you in these next 30 minutes. So definitely remain attentive. Okay, so last week, Potter and I, our state rep, Charles Potter and I, were having a heavy discussion about Black Lives Matter and the senseless killings that have been happening in and around our community and all across the country. And so we spoke about some recent killings that happened in early July and then just kind of backtracked on everything that had been happening. So we thought that it would be beneficial if we brought in some guests this week that could shed some light from 2 different sides of the spectrum, okay? We have officers with us, and we have one of our very inspirational community leaders with us to kind of shed some light on the Black Lives Matter movement and the killings that have been happening, not just to civilians, but also to officers. So we're hoping that you can hopefully get some information out of this that will help probably bring some peace into your heart about what's been going on. So Shakeem, if you could go ahead and introduce our guests.
All right, so hello everyone. It's nice to see you again. I've been missing for a while, but I'm back. All right, first we have Officer Michael Coleman, and then we have the wonderful preacher, teacher, Dr. Donald Morton, Reverend Dr. Donald Morton, and then we have Lieutenant
Tashawn.
Lieutenant Tashawn is here with us as well. Charge it to my mind, not my heart.
It's okay.
But we have these wonderful guests here with us today, and we have a power-packed conversation that is long overdue, especially with officers. We definitely got a chance to have a little brief chat before coming on the set today, and I'm very optimistic of the things that I've learned and the things I've heard. The first question that I have is definitely first towards Dr. Donald Morton. Now, with you being both a community leader and also a pastor, usually they say that there's this stigma where there's a disconnect between the community and the church. How do you bring the 2 together?
Well, I think if we look historically at particularly the black church is a social construct. It's not just a theological construct. If you look at the life and legacy of King, Ralph Abernathy, and others, what you see is the black church actively involved with community and with social issues. And so it's what my hope is to make sure that the black church returns to its place of prominence. It has always been the epicenter of black life, right? And so hopefully I can do my part to return the black church to that space where it is responsible for reaching the most marginalized of our community. In this particular context, the importance of reaching a community of black brothers who are being executed across the nation by rogue police officers. And I want to make sure that I help everybody to understand that the Black Lives Matter movement is an ideology not against police,
right,
but against police misconduct, right? And so there has to be a very clear understanding between the two.
Okay.
And so when we talk about Black Lives Matter and we talk about the most recent killings, I mean, what are your views on that?
Well, I think we live in a very dangerous society when it becomes criminal to be young, black, and outside.
Yes.
Right? Back in the day when my mother was growing up, my father was growing up, you could stand on the block, you could sing doo-wop songs. All of those things were a natural part of black life. Right now, it is almost criminal to congregate, and we understand the things that come with congregating in different spaces. But I think that there has to be a responsibility placed on police, and a part of the dialogue that I'm hoping to hear tonight is not re-victimizing victims, right? So in the black community, black young men are being executed. And we can have the conversation at another time. I'm hoping we don't address it tonight. This whole idea, notion of black on black crime, there's white on white crime, right? It just
Yes.
doesn't get reported in the same way. Those communities aren't policed in the same way. So what we're talking about tonight is lieutenant counts and officers and others, like my dear brother here, who are responsible, who have to have a responsibility as being one in authority and power, not to utilize that power and force with such a subjective standard of policing, where if a white officer enters a black space or a chocolate space, if he feels threatened, then he has the right to use deadly force. That's a problem. So we need to change that, because his feelings going into an urban space are going to be very different than a white officer's feelings going into urban spaces. And because it's a subjective reality, we've got to address that.
Officer Counts, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm in agreement with is that, first let me state this.
Sure.
Black lives matter because I'm a black man. Blue lives matter because I'm a police officer. All lives matter because I'm a Christian. So what I'm in agreement with is myself, as well as other police officers, as well as Reverend Morton and other people in the community, we have to get together, we have to talk, we have to have an open and honest discussion. We have to talk about a variety of issues. And it's important that we do these things, because that's the only way things change. You know, people can yell and scream, and right now I could say that there probably is a lack of communication between the community and the police. We're working on it, the Wilmington Police Department, to do things better. But the only way things will get better if there's communication. We talk about our things. We're going to agree on some things. We're not going to agree on everything. But the most important thing is to get dialogue out there where we can discuss things, where we can talk, and then we can come up with solutions. It can't just be talk. It can't just be meeting, but we have to come up with solutions. One of the things, myself, Officer Coleman, as well as another group of officers, we see that there's an issue in our community. We see that there's an issue in this country. And, you know, we want black people to be safe. We want police officers to be safe. Again, as a cop, you know what I'm saying, I want everybody to be safe. But one of the things that we're actually doing now is that we're actually going out into the communities, trying to educate people what to do when they're stopped by the police. We just recently had our first session at the Monday Club last Monday, where about 20 officers were there, and I think, from what I understand, it was a positive interaction where they went out and they was explaining to the community. So we just don't want to stop there. We want to go to other places, Hicks Anderson, Kingswood, and other places in the community. I know Reverend Johnson has my business card, as well as Reverend Morton. I'll leave my business card, has my email address on there. And when we do get these other locations that we're going to attend, I'll be happy to share this information. So again, we can start the dialogue, so we can begin to communicate and we can begin to educate each other. We can educate the community as well as we can educate police officers. But there needs to be some type of dialogue.
So would you say that the community is really looking for dialogue? Is definitely important. Communication is key, and you know, everyone has to be very clear about what the mission is. right? And so are you guys coming to this, approaching this with a plan, you know, to not just educate the community, but also to ensure them or make them feel assured that there's something going into effect going forward that's going to kind of help keep the community more protected, or so they won't live?
So I think, and I want to be very careful, right? I think we saw in a recent instance a young man laying down with his hands up, and the officer still shot him. Right. And so I think that there is a responsibility to kind of address some part of what the community's response is. But that's what I mean when I say we can't re-victimize victims, right? The officers have a responsibility to the dialogue, right? And there are great officers, guys. So I'm not here to suggest otherwise. But what I am saying is it is becoming increasingly obvious that even when community members follow protocol, we are still shot by police. And there has to be a willingness for good acting officers to call out bad acting officers. And we were on last week with Captain Fahim, right? And he was talking about the fact that oftentimes that conversation, while it doesn't happen in the public square, it does happen, right? That there are officers who are willing to say, hey, bruh, you can't do that in my community, right? And so we celebrate that. But there has to be an ownership by officers to acknowledge that some of these things that are happening across the nation are bad things. And yes, blue lives matter, all lives matter, but blue lives matter and white lives are not being executed at the rate that black lives are. So we have to intentionally continue to name black lives, because black lives are the only lives that seemingly don't have any value to them. So that's, and we don't have to just name, we don't just have to remind our white dominant culture, we also have to remind ourselves, because we're seeing images every single day of black people lying in the street executed.
Which brings me back to my point about a plan, okay? So if we can continuously talk about all the lives that have been lost over the last 18 months, right? Where black men, unarmed black men, have been shot by police officers, okay? So we can talk about it, but I'm just wondering if there's some type of action plan in place or that's being talked about that's going to be implemented so that we can start seeing a decrease as opposed to an increase.
There is. From our perspective, we are attempting to fight legislatively, right?
Okay.
That there have to be some rules addressed legislatively to change that subjective standard of policing. We are saying that you can no longer say, I'm going to kill you, but I felt like you threatened me. We were talking, our lieutenant was talking about, as our brother was sharing, and I think it's right? He was saying, well, you know, there are still things that can be hit up here, right? And officers want to feel protected. They want to go home. Everybody want to go home. So that's a part of it, but we got to change some of the subjective standards of policing, in my opinion.
Officer Coleman, I'm sorry. One question. Officer Coleman, you being a police officer, you being a black man, and I want to hear what your views are, you know, being on the force, but also being a human, being a person, being somebody who's a black man in the community. You were once a young boy. I'm not sure if you were ever harassed by the police coming up or had any type of situation.
I think he was.
But what are your views on all of this?
Everybody's making a lot of good points, and my view is there is no one true answer, but I strongly feel that, as he put, and not just because he's a lieutenant, but what I've been saying and thinking, the whole point to make everything better is conversation. I'm from the city. I'm from Southbridge. I grew up in the city. I did my dirt. I, grew up. I matured, and eventually I became a police officer in the city. As it goes for the city, my family's in the city. So my feeling is on the perspective of sometimes how we angle the police being the biggest part of the issue. I get it, but my family knows me, so they have a different outlook on it. And at the same time, on the community, when some officers might say, well, this is why this happens, because they might not understand the whole dynamics or may need more learning in that dynamics, I get it from them also. But I don't, come from their same standpoint. So all in all, I just think it's about getting everyone on the same accord. Like, I know there's some legislative issues that need to be addressed, but here and now, is conversation with the officers that work in your neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with being polite and saying to an officer, hey, would you mind pulling over? There's nothing wrong with an officer saying, hey, you mind if I talk to you? I think we need to make each other accountable to doing that, because I police your neighborhood, you police my neighborhood. I'm a citizen in this neighborhood. I want things to be better. I want things to stop happening. And we don't know what will happen in the future. But we can all say conversation about things and how they are, it's a good chance that might help something.
And one of the things when I talk about dialogue, going back to Dr. Morton, when he was like accountability, as I stated before, starts on both ends. You know, I one day at a meeting with ministers, and it was police officers there, and one of the reverends at the meeting asked me, well, what's one of the ways that you want the community to be accountable? I said, you know, help us out. As Mike said, you know, if we're doing our job, say, hey, those officers doing their job. Then I said, on the flip, on the other side of it, you know, I said, every police FOP union in this country, when the incident in South Carolina happened, where the guy was running away and he obviously was shot in the back, every police union should have stood up and say,
That's right.
we condone this type of behavior. This is not typical of all police officers. And then that's the way you start building trust, when no one side is always right and no one side is always wrong. But when people begin to talk and we come together with solutions and start trying to figure out how we're going to solve these problems, then we both can acknowledge faults and we can acknowledge, you know, things that we can do better, both sides.
And just on your point, and what he pointed out in the very beginning was the rogue officers. Because a lot of time, I go to 90-10, okay? 90% of people are doing the right things. There's the 10% that aren't. When those forces, the 90% of the officers doing the right thing, and they deal with the 10%, everybody sees it. But when you got the 10% on the 10%, they camouflage themselves in the good and the bad. And it's the rogue officers that makes it bad for everybody. And it's the bad citizens that make the good officers nervous and sometimes end up doing things that's not right, or that we think is not right from what we see.
Before we came on to this segment, so let me say things. I think another thing that we can do is I was invited to share or to lecture the incoming class, right, of officers. Okay. I think one of the things that happens is right here in this moment, we preaching to the choir, right? There are some officers that need to be addressed and talked to and understand the culture of black life in urban space that we don't get a chance to have dialogue with, right? So I love talking with these officers here, but they doing the right thing, right? We need to have a conversation with those officers, and I do know that there are some planned conversations that we have right now with officers. But I think there, to your point, what you said was true, and that was when that killing in South Carolina happened, right? There should have been every part of the FOP should have rose up, and they didn't. So that's the issue. The issue is there's no public response to, and before I came on, I went on Google to look up some information. And here's what we saw. Philando Castile, killed, right? Alton Sterling, killed. But it's all the way down the line now, buried by officers that were killed. Because what it suggests is officers' lives matter, blue lives matter, but those black lives that were executed don't matter at the same level. And so that's what we're fighting for, some sense of equity.
Now the thing is, we have as a civilian, as a community member, we are seeing officers and pastors and leadership on a higher pedestal than civilian life. And that's what we're seeing, pretty much. We're seeing every single last one of our names is preceded by a hashtag. And that's all we've become. Once we get shot by either, whether it be a police officer or whether we've been unjust, done wrong, all we've become is a hashtag. Nothing's been done, nothing's been spoke about. And one of the conversations that we was having outside was that the thing is, where we're having a big disconnect is because we don't know the full story of the situation. We don't know the full story of the Alton Sterling situation. We don't know what happened before the video started recording.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So the thing is, somebody has to know what happened. Somebody has to know how the whole thing played out. there's no just in every single last one of the situations that happened, from the Sandra Bland to the out in Sterling, and that's been some time, and it's been a lot of deaths.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't care, you know, the story behind it. They just know that it did happen, and they're not, you know, the way it's setting with the community is just not pleasing. And so you talked about respect. You know, the community's losing respect for police officers. You know, and some, you know, I mean, look at what happened down in Texas. You know, so it's like, how do we intervene? You know, because now's the time to intervene. Now's the time to start trying to figure out how to pivot this whole thing so that we do not continue down the path that we're on, because it could turn into something very gruesome and ugly.
And I think it is. And so the reason for which I ask good actors, right, to publicly denounce bad behavior is because it is the bad actors that are making it far more dangerous for the good actors. Right? And so our objective is to make sure that we protect you, that we protect chocolate lives, and that we protect all lives. But again, it is chocolate lives that are being executed at a far more rapid pace, and we're attempting to slow that down.
Well, again, one of the solutions I can say is with this dialogue, you know, we can start, once the investigations are totally over, start taking these cases, getting a panel of people, officers, community members, and then start dissecting and discussing things. And then coming up with the legislation to figure out what can we do to make it better. Going back to your point, to piggyback off my partner over here, is, you know, saying, as a black man growing up in Trenton, New Jersey, matter of fact, East Trenton, New Jersey, I had some bad experience. So one of the other solutions is, you know, it would be, you know, I could hope the community can encourage. A lot of times we have the conversation, we ask people to join our force. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to do that job, I'm not going to do that. So one of the things is, you know, the community members need to start encouraging people in the community to come on to the police department. A person once told me, you can yell and scream from the outside of a building all you want, but the only way you make changes is from within.
That's right.
You know, so again, it goes back to, there has to be a mutual respect. There has to be both sides willing to admit faults, and both sides, you know, willing to admit where solutions or ways that we can do to make things better.
At the last march, right? We did that. So we suggested that everyone that was at the march file to become, or to apply to become, a police officer, because we believe that true community policing is when police come from the community, right? So that when we can get inside, make those subtle adjustments, because one of the things that I was told was, we got to change what is possible for police officers to do. So my response was, just because it's possible, just because it's allowed. I'm a Christian too, right? One of the things that the Bible says is, all things are lawful, but not everything's expedient. Just because I got a right to do it doesn't mean that I should do it. Just because I have a right to kill, or as this subjective standard says I can, doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And I've got to be able to do what's called bracket. How do I suspend my own personal bias to give this person the benefit of the doubt, and at the same time keep myself safe?
Awesome. So, I mean, we have to wrap up this segment. We are absolutely, I feel like I want to continue this conversation. You know, this is a heavy conversation. It's a lot of topics. You know, you got to have those hard conversations.
Absolutely.
You know, it's about throwing everything on the table and addressing it head on. And so we hope you, with the viewers, have definitely received some helpful information. The bottom line is this, as the lieutenant said, go up to the department and ask for an application. You want to see change? Be the change.
Absolutely.
And so we definitely need individuals from our community that are seeing it from one perspective to probably jump on the other side of the fence, so that they can start implementing some real change into this generation that's coming up. All right, so we definitely appreciate you all for coming. We would definitely love to have you back in the future. We know that we don't want to continuously talk about, you know, the individuals that are falling behind these situations, but maybe we can talk about the progress that has been happening, and so we can get some updates there. So we're going to go ahead and jump back over to my lovely host, Reverend Ty, over in Studio B.
See how she do me, young? See how she do me? All because I'm dressed down. What a wonderful conversation from the complexities of color, whose chair is the Reverend Dr. Donald Morton. We thank him. We thank the lieutenant. And incidentally, y'all recognize Mike because he's an ex-football player. Mike, you thought we didn't know that, boy? from Southbridge. Incidentally, congratulations to IMAC, the Interdenominational Ministers Action Council, for signing the historical document telling the state and the governor that he didn't act fast enough on state racism. Until next week, for State Representative Potter, congratulations to Velda Potter, City Treasurer, The Bottom Line. Next week, same time, same station. God bless you, take care, and we'll see you here.